Today, I am honored to have the privilege to introduce our guest speaker in the Thoughts on Education initiative by Collegedunia.com. We have with us the chairman of Echelon Institute of Technology, Faridabad, Mr. Prabhat Agarwal. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm very, very well. How are you doing?
I am doing fine, sir.
Right. Good to have you.
Thank you so much, sir. Before delving into our conversation, sir, could you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your journey in the education domain?
Oh, see, I'm primarily a spiritual guy. I have spent, more than 2 decades in an ashram, and my whole training and understanding in life comes from a holistic spiritual perspective. I give talks on Srimad Bhagavad Gita throughout country and around the world. That's what my primary job is. That's my first love is. And I happen to be associated with education simply because of of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I used to give talks. I used to engage with people. I used to go around this, and then a few people and friend of us and my family, and we thought about beginning taking an initiative in the education sector, and that's where the Echelon came up. Initially, I was one of the members of the board of governors, and then around 2014, I was promoted as the chairman, where we committed ourselves to a new vision. That's where we launched our the vision for the Echelon in a new way. And we are a holistic, non-profitable organization. And since then, I'm in the education sector as more as a social leader, more as a spiritual leader. And I treat myself more as a guardian of the institute rather than day-to-day administrator. And that's how my life has started. But first and foremost, I am more of a spiritual leader and social leader than an academician or an educational leader. Yeah. So I'm in the field of consciousness. That's my primary job. And consciousness is directly, related to education. The onset of education is the awakening. And to be honest with you, for me, education or this institute or any other endeavor or enterprise in that direction is only one more medium to awaken and expand the consciousness which each one of us has. Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi Shvetketu. I am Brahma and you are also the same. And my whole effort is to somehow or the other create mechanisms whereby you begin to awaken to the infinite possibility that you are. You are Brahma yourself. And that's what I want to tell each and every student of mine. That you don't become engineer 4 years later, you are already an engineer. Brahma is an engineer. You don't need to go and take some other, learning and all that. Just need to remember. For this, in our Vedanta, in the Sanatani Dhara, for us, what is more important is remembrance. We call it Smriti. हमारे सारे शास्त्र जो है स्मृति हैं. मनुस्मृति से लेके आगे सारे चले जाओ. In fact, add one more word to it. That is Shruti. So it begins from listening and it ends up in remembrance. So you are a disciple when you begin to listen. And you are a master when you remember to your true self who you are. That's what happened to Arjuna, while going through this whole 18 chapters of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that's what we are doing. Whatever I do in my life is towards only one goal: that you remember what your love is, what you are here for, what your highest calling is, and what you can excel in. Like today, we are talking hugely about excellence. Excellence is the key word here. And it already has been, dealt with in detail in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says Samta hi yoga. This word Samta hi yoga, yoga कर्मस्य कौशलम, कर्म का कौशल ही योग है और योग समता से आता है. समता is usually misunderstood. Samta is usually understood to be as balance. It's not balance, it's wholeness. It's like covering 360 degrees. When a nut, somebody who's walking the rope, the stick in the hand is moving in both the directions. He's shaking, and all he's trying to do is to arrive at a balance where he's centered. So he's moving left, he's moving right, he's moving left, he's moving. But all he's trying to do is to arrive at the center. That's all he's trying to do. And what he's doing is he's taking care of both the left and the right. Okay? Meaning thereby that unless and until you cover the 360 degrees, unless and until you cover every dimension of the very domain or the subject or the concerned issue, you cannot resolve. So yoga karmasya kaushal. Karma ka kaushal yoga. That's where the excellence comes from. So in today's modern competitive world that you have outside, when you are looking for excellence, all that you need to do is to arrive in yoga, being centered. And if you start to play from the highest self that you are, closer to it, you succeed in both. फिर माया भी मिल सकती है, राम भी मिलेंगे. अदरवाइज हो कह रहा है कि ना माया मिली ना राम, दोनों से गए. And I think you don't realize your full potential unless and until you begin to arrive both in the worldly life and as well as your highest calling, the spiritual self. That's what a complete man or woman is all about. Right? And that's what I have always inspired by. There used to be a Raymond's ad, the complete man. I used to be hugely inspired. This is the complete man. That's what Krishna is.
Yeah.
One avatar of Vishnu. That inspires me.
Inspirational journey, sir. And it is good to have you here. The concept of Echelon as well. I think it is a very big thing for the education industry in general. So I just want to point that out. Sir, as you are in charge of such an important position, what is your philosophy of leadership? How will you describe your leadership style?
For me, leader is somebody who knows the will, who's the evolutionary impulse, who's the gateway to what has to come to life, Yada yada hi dharmasya glane bhavati bharata. For me, leadership comes from there. You are the gateway to the vision, the will of the life, the age, the times that we are living in. And one who comes along and is willing to be the gateway, to allow the will of the time and the space and the age that we are living in to percolate down to the people. Whoever is interested in this is a leader. And for me, leadership begins with listening. I mean, if we go into today, these acronyms are very famous. So if you break down leadership, LEA, DER, SHIP. So L for me stands for listening. So it begins with listening. You start listening to the people, you start listening to the society, you start listening to the communities. And you absorb them. And then it's about empowering them. The real job of any leader is to empower the people around him, empower the communities, empower the society, empower the nations. It's about making them, available to who they are. And then A is again being available. You become available to them. You are there for them, giving them confidence. Empathizing with them, understanding them, and not running away. Whenever the time comes, whenever there is a moment of crunch, you go out there and you just, you say, okay, I'm here. I think that Shah Rukh Khan movie, Main Hoon Na. So a leader has to be who says, I'm available, I'm there, okay? So don't be worried, I'm there. Who gives you that? And then D is about delegation. D is about, trusting people, having confidence in them. You let them flower under you. Yeah. So, and then you go on to, again, the next E. And that next E is, again, about empathizing and also energizing and more than that, being evolutionary. Because for me, leadership has to be all about being evolutionary. You take it to the next level. You delegate and give people the opportunity to work as a team for that evolutionary purpose, which is your original vision. So, being inspired by that evolutionary impulse, and that's what Vishnu Tattva is all about. Yeah? Vishnu is the evolutionary impulse, and once you are being one with it, and you allow people to participate in that by being available to them, to giving confidence to them, by letting them fail, and that evolutionary impulse, that's where the next R is of the leadership. You take responsibility for it. Who says, I am responsible for the success and for the failure of the vision that we have set out as a team. And then S is about sharing. S is about sharing that vision, sharing their pain, sharing their failures, sharing their defeat. S is about, being transparent, being heartfelt, having no complaints. You don't put the blame on somebody else. Shifting the blame is not the forte of any leader. Leader always says the buck stops here. That's being responsible. That's being sharing. That's being coming around as a team. And then H is about being holistic. You know that it's all about being Purna. It's all about being complete. It's all about being addressing each and every dimension of the issue or the challenges that you are facing. A leader always is holistic. Unless until they address the issues, you will end up putting somebody or the other as a scapegoat. Yeah? So it's all about being holistic. And then I is about integrity and intent. So a leader has to be a man of integrity. What he says is delivered upon. What he says matters. He cannot be flippant about whatever he says or whatever he's engaged in. So he's a man of integrity, or he or she is a man of integrity and intent. Yeah? So they're always focused and on job and are practical. It's all about making things work. And finally, P is about patience. Because any vision that is there to be manifested takes time. So a leader is patient with people, patient with his team, patient with the will of the God. He waits. Yeah. हमारे यहाँ भक्त की इस वेदांतिक कल्चर में there is the whole understanding of bhakta is one who's in प्रतीक्षा. प्रार्थना के बाद प्रतीक्षा होती है, प्रेम में प्रतीक्षा होती है. A leader who's there to manifest the love of his life or the passion of his life, or the vision that he sees that God has given him to be manifested in this universe, has to be patient. Karmana adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadati. You have the right to work, but then you have to be patient. Let the God deliver it to you. So I think leadership includes all this. Without this, there cannot be any leadership. For me, leadership begins with the vision and ends with the empowerment with the people. When the people realize, the team realizes that it's not the leader who has done the job, it's they themselves who have achieved it. If the team around you, thinks that you are the one who has done it, then your job is half full. Yeah? Like Buddha used to say, it's apadipa bhava. The real success of Buddha is in people realizing that they are a light unto themselves. And so for me, Buddha is a true leader. So that's my understanding. It may be a very classical or traditional or
very unique as well, very inspiring as well.
It's not very corporate. This is how I understand leadership to be. Yeah. So this is what it is. And then I think your next question was,
about the institute, basically. The unique features or the biggest strengths that you see. The biggest strengths that you see of the institute itself that people might not know. The USP of it.
I think people, the biggest challenge that I find is, the private institutes or the universities are treated like, money-making exercises. And what people don't realize is we are authentically non-profit. I'm not an industrialist. My father is the one, but I'm not. My life has been dedicated to the awakening of the consciousness. And coming from there, for me, education is one such medium or mechanism whereby the awakening in the consciousness to the highest wisdom that you are is possible. And people don't know that for us it is a cause that inspires. It's a cause of transformation of the engineering education. Is what inspires Echelon. And we are committed to more so about the experiential engineering education. Here we are more committed to creating a culture of inspiration, exploration, and invention. We are committed to creating a culture where you come, rather than having a rote learning, you yourself experiment, practice, go into the field. We have around MOU signed with around 35 villages in this region. So you go out there on the field, maybe in a village, and experiment with the understanding that you have of the concepts, engineering concepts, and find out few solutions for them. Like a few students of ours have found about rain harvesting, or some, this region is still plagued with, in the 21st century, we're still plagued with power cuts. So, giving them electrical solutions. So we have tie-ups with the industry also. And the focus is on, understanding the concept more as an artist rather than an engineer. So if you listen to a musician, we listen to in our own way, the music. But for a musician, the sound is quite different than what it sounds to us. For a painter, what a painter sees around the kind of colors he sees is quite different from the colors we see. They have a perspective. Every master in their chosen field ultimately arrives at a perspective. Perspective is the highest education you have. And the whole endeavor at Echelon is to give you a perspective rather than a degree. And that's unique about us. And most of the people don't realize that we are not run-of-the-mill engineering institute. We are a modern Gurukul in a sense to give you an engineering perspective. So that, even if you don't take up a job, you become an entrepreneur, or, you drift away into a different field than science and engineering, you will always be there with this perspective that you have about engineering. That's the whole purpose. That's the whole enterprise. That's what we want to do over here at Echelon. It's a new vision. It's a new enterprise, and we are on that path. And I think that once people begin to realize that we are authentically non-profitable and what we are doing is as a cause and committed to it, it's quite different than people usually look at engineering, private especially institutes at. Yeah. So.
I think it's not just unique, it's very pious in its nature, and the administration is doing a wonderful job, starting right with you. I think your beliefs, your ideas, your vision is something that is being reflected here, and I think that is the reason why that unique feature, as we were asking, that is being reflected, because you have your beliefs that many people in the same domain do not share, but it is the one that is students are looking for, the parents are also looking for that. It is very unique in that sense that chairmen, administrators are not willing to go down that path. As you're mentioning about non-profit as well, it is something that will be very surprising if you ask fellow competitors of your institute as well. So,
I can tell you, we have the best of the infrastructure in the private institutes or universities in the whole state of Haryana, I think. We are at par with any great university, a private university of this country, in infrastructure and all the facilities and on other parameters as well. But we are charging only 1/3 to 1/4 of the price of the tuition fees or the whole than what the other private universities are charging. And it's not possible unless and until we are non-profitable and we have the other source of revenue generation. Yeah, so it's run by a spiritual trust, and that's why we are able to achieve this.
Thank you, sir. I thank you once again for the time that you gave us today. The knowledge you have imparted is not just valuable to the viewer, but to me as well. It is an honor to be here, to have this interaction with you. And I look forward to have this interaction in the future as well. And hopefully the students will also get to see a glimpse of that. They might not get as lucky as me to get the full conversation. But in the future as well, if we can connect with the students again, I think they are also looking forward to hear more from you. So thank you very much for being with us today, and have a good day, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.